Alright, what is going on YouTube? We got yet another Death Note live action video for you guys. Today we're actually going to be talking about the lost, forgotten film script of the Death Note live action 2009 Warner Brothers film. Because if you watched my previous video where I talked about the history of every single Death Note live action adaptation, including every Japanese film, even the Death Note musical, the TV drama, and of course the infamous 2017 Netflix film, I mentioned that Netflix film was originally going to be a Warner Brothers film that was going to come out in the theaters, and the script apparently leaked midway into production. So before Netflix got the rights to make this film and it actually got to be an exclusive film for their platform, it was actually going to be made by Warner Brothers. And the writers that were hired to write this script were known as the Parlapanitas brothers, and they were going to get Shane Black to direct the film. Shane Black did Iron Man 3. So yeah, apparently the script leaked and people caught wind of it. No one could either confirm or deny that this was the actual script that they were working with. It could be some random person just put this there and said, hey, this is what they were working on. But hypothetically, if this script was legitimate, I wonder how the film actually would have turned out. So I figured, hey, why not explore this idea for today's video? So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so really quickly, I just kind of want to go over each bullet point of the things that they changed from the anime and the source material and see kind of maybe how they could work or if they would be a good idea or a bad idea. Because it says here that these are only a few of the changes that were made, and unfortunately I couldn't actually find the full-on script, but even if I did find it, I mean, I probably wouldn't be reading that whole entire thing, to be honest. But hey, maybe if I do find it, or if you guys find it and you want to link it to me, feel free to do so, and maybe I can do some kind of video or maybe a hour-long special or something where I just read the entire script. I don't know, but again, I would have to get my hands on that script first, and unfortunately I couldn't do that. So we're just gonna go over the bullet points here. The first one says, rather than the detached high school genius like Yagami in Japan, this Death Note revolves around a 21-year-old working college student in New York named Luke Murray. Now I will say the change to make him from high school to college is not a bad idea. I think the angst of Light and the need to change the world and just the edginess and the god complex that Light has definitely fits more of a high schooler than a college student for sure. But I do think that while you're in college and you're broke, it can be a really healthy experience if you find the right people and you make the right friends and have a really solid friend group. But if you don't do that and you're in college, so you're away from home, right? It can still kind of make sense of why Light does go down that path of having this god complex and ultimately feeling the way that he does, right? And if you're in college, certainly you have some kind of ambition to chase higher goals or make more of yourself than as you would in high school. So I think that the story of Death Note could still kind of fit into him being a college student. And of course we know that the original Death Note does go from high school to college to, of course, working in the police force. Like, that's how Light's timeline pans out throughout the entire series, but initially he starts his journey, his story in high school, whereas in this script he would be starting it in college, and I do think that that's still possible. Changing his name to Luke Murray, I actually think would be a better idea and probably would have worked out better if they were planning to make any changes at all, because now we don't have to associate this character with the Light Yagami that we all know and love. And that's something that I wish they would have done with Light Turner. Instead of just changing his last name, they should have just changed his full name, so that way we don't have these pre-assumed expectations of what we want our main character to be. Okay, so the next one says Luke has a girlfriend he loves and a good relationship with his family, but the first major event of the script is him saving a random woman from being hit by a subway simply for the sake of saving her. So this is like kind of weird. I mean, I feel like we would need to know the full story of what even happens with the Death Note for this to kind of make sense, like for this context to even make sense, because it seems like he's starting off as a fresh new character. Like, it doesn't even seem like he's Light, which is completely fine, to be honest, because again, if they're gonna change it, like, might as well change it all the way, might as well make it a new character, a new story that takes place in the world of Death Note, instead of keeping the name, keeping the characters, but then changing the story entirely. Like, then it just makes no sense. or keeping the name of the characters and then changing the characters entirely. Like, you're just asking for people to hate your story and characters at that point. So I'm okay with this happening, but again, we would need to know more the context of the actual full-on story to know if like this would even make sense or what this leads up to. I think one of the cool things about Death Note is seeing Light's transformation. In a way, he does start off being this god complex, angsty, like edgy character, right? So he doesn't really necessarily change. Like, he just kind of frame 1, episode 1, he gets the notebook and his true colors start to show, or like his true intentions start to build up, and he realizes his goal and his dream. But we do see like small glimmers of his true self start to like bleed out or start to actually show throughout the series. Like, he still seems like that innocent kid or that innocent bright young boy that everyone like sees him as in the beginning, but then throughout the series and then towards the end, you really start to see the transformation. And it's not really a transformation, but it's just his true colors being shown, right? And I love that. I love that progression of the series and of the character. So if they were going for that with this route of like, oh, he's got a great family, he's got a great relationship, he even saves a woman because he loves life so much that he wants to preserve life for others, and then we see him ultimately transform and descend into this madness or this evil maniacal villain that is Light, that was Light the whole time in the anime. Maybe we see more of an actual like visible progression and change in his character. So that could be something that actually does play into that a little bit more visually, and I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that, you know? And then the last bullet point is that Ryuk, Misa, Rem, the Yotsuba group, and other characters from Death Note's second act are not present, which does kind of suck. But again, it seems like they're going for something completely new with the script. And again, if they make it happen in the world of Death Note, and they're just changing the story entirely, that's fine. That is completely fine. And I feel like apparently the script was getting a lot of backlash and this and that, but in all honesty, it doesn't seem like they were trying to go for the story of Death Note. It seems like they were trying to go for a completely new story. And I feel like it's fine if they want to do that, right? Like, there's no Ryuk, there's no Misa, there's no Rem. It didn't say L. So if they did try to have some kind of detective character and they named it L, then that would be a little bit troublesome. But let's say that this story happened, you know, decades after the whole Light and L situation in the main story, right? By now, there could be a new detective there. It's no longer L, it's no longer Nier, it's some other detective, right? Or it's just in some other part of the world to where, you know, Nier doesn't even know that this is happening. Like, we don't even know, you know? I just really like the idea of a story happening in the world of Death Note that doesn't necessarily have to be the story of Death Note, because I love Death Note so much, but I want more. You know, I mean, I can only rewatch and reread the series so many times to where, you know, I want something new. And I will say that manga that came out somewhat recently, where it had like Donald Trump was the president at the time, like in a manga panel, that was actually fire. I loved that little story that they made, and I wish they would come back and like make more stories like that, or like, I don't know, you know, it just like that got me so excited because I realized how much I love this world and like this franchise, you know? Honestly, like, oh man, I mean, there's so much they could do, like they could pull from, because Misa at the end of the series, like there's still so much unresolved things that like, oh, you know, like just thinking about it, I'm like getting all these ideas now, like, oh man. But actually taking a look at this script, like, to be honest, it doesn't seem too bad. It does seem very different from what Death Note is, but hey, that's fine if they can make it work and they can make it good. I feel like people might get the wrong idea and think, oh, they're Americanizing it because they're changing everything, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Just because they're telling a different story in the world of Death Note doesn't mean that they're changing everything that we know and love about Death Note. And I feel like sometimes it's better to have just a different story than try to tell the story that we all know and love, because it can give something new to fans of the franchise, and it can open up the gate and be easier to follow for people that are new to the franchise. That's pretty much all I had to say for this one, guys. What do you guys think about what I had to say visiting the lost Warner Brothers script plot points of the Death Note live action 2009 film? Let me know in the comments below. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, that helps me out a ton, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see y'all in the next video.